I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission for Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. May I have the roll call, please?
Chair McGill,
Here?
Vice Chair Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Aldana,
Present.
Commissioner Lesnar Buxton,
You.
Commissioner Unander LaBerge.
Okay, thank you. Director Zachary, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, Chair Miguel, we do not.
Okay, thank you very much. And I did not see any written public comment that came in within our time frame. I see some pictures related to one of the tree items here. Anything other than that? Okay. And that brings us to general public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not scheduled for a public discussion before the commission. The total amount of time for public comment will be 15 minutes, and I have one speaker slip for general comment, and that is Kenneth Locke. I haven't seen you in a while, Mr. Locke.
Yeah, I haven't been around as much. I was waiting for the summer, but I've been back for about a month now.
So let's get you set up here so we can start your timer, and
Yeah.
when we hit the buzzer, you'll have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Thanks.
Are we ready to go? My name is Kenneth Locke. I just thought I'd take the time to come and speak to you today. I think some people in the community are aware of what I'm doing. I have a project. I'm usually could be found down at the tennis courts, down at the municipal tennis courts, practicing, which I've been doing for the past like 20-some years here, for the most part. Again, I don't know if I mentioned, I have a project called Tennisance, the Renaissance of Tennis, or the Tennisance Method. I'm on YouTube, and I'm doing X's and Twitter and all that for this project. The thing about the Tennisance is it's the Renaissance of tennis. I'm actually going to be bringing it over to where we understand the nature of, what a genius is. I'm actually claiming to be the genius of this Renaissance, who reached enlightenment, and the enlightenment's in relation to an atonement in relation to the mind and body. We can now actually recognize tennis as a mind-body exercise, and the nature of developing the mind and the body, mental health, physical health connection, intelligence, coordination connection. It turns out that right now we're not making the connection right now, based on the fact that we just have perspective on tennis being a sport. People are just developing one arm, playing a game, and let's see. I'm just pretty much making you aware of. Kind of the fact that I'm in the community could help the community in this transition if it would be interested in getting on board with what I'm doing. I've talked to Jeff today with sports, Jeff Smith. Yeah, and they've seen me down there and stuff like that. So again, I just wanted to come in here and just speak and kind of let you know I'm kind of back in town, and you can find me down at the tennis courts. And thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and I believe that's it for general public comment. So that brings us to the committee assignment reports. I'll start with you, Commissioner Lesnar Buxton.
I read to the opening of the Daily Sentinel, very impressed and very also impressed by the renovation of the West Side Central Auditorium.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Aldana.
Nothing to report this month.
Okay, thanks. And Vice Chair Clark? Okay, and the Park Foundation meeting for this month was canceled, and I also went to the Davis Center ribbon cutting, and I will echo Commissioner Lesnar Buxton's comments that it just looks fabulous. I would think it ought to be a very well-used and well-loved space. All right, that brings us to Commission and Staff Communications, and anything there?
Chair Miguel, no, nothing to report this month.
Thanks. And ceremonial items.
Yes, Chair McGill, we have 2 employees that were recognized by the city administrator this month. Tony Scholl, who is our recreation supervisor in Parks and Recreation. He's actually our aquatics supervisor for 10 years of service. If you are anywhere near Los Baños or Cabrillo Pavilion in East Beach during the summer, you will see Tony. He runs our junior lifeguard program with the help of lots of employees, as well as oversees Los Baños, and we have a great team there. So it was great to have him serve 10 years. He's very valued in our department. And then for 20 years of service, we have Juan Garcia, who's a grounds maintenance crew leader. And so he's been instrumental in many park renovations, park maintenance projects, whether it's on the beachfront, downtown, throughout the city, and brings a wealth of knowledge to his role. He also recently got promoted from a senior grounds worker to the grounds maintenance crew leader. So he's worked his way up from a GMW1 all the way to his current position. And he's also, if you've noticed, a little bit of a change around City Hall. He oversees the crew these days that helps maintain the grounds around City Hall.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, congratulations to both of them. 30 years combined doing 2 things that are just vital services to the community and very visible. I mean, the swimming program and our outdoor spaces, it doesn't get much more visible than that. So congratulations to both of you. All right, and that takes us to summary of council items. It was a very short summary of council items. I assume if anybody has any questions or comments. We can move to the minutes of the last meeting, and the recommendation is that the commission waives the reading and approves the minutes of the regular meeting of November 20th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, and do I have a second? I'll second it. All right, and let's go to a vote. All right, so moved. And now we are with the trees. Welcome, Mr. Slack.
Good afternoon, Chair McGill and Commissioners. The first Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is a request to remove Canary Island pine. This is a street tree located in front of the property at 2216 De La Vina Street. The applicant's requesting removal of the tree for 2 primary reasons. There's been some pine cones fallen from the tree that have actually caused damage to one vehicle's windshield, as well as damage to the surrounding hardscape. The sidewalk, as well as the driveway apron, has some visible cracking and pitting damage associated with the tree, as stated on the application. The committee reviewed the application, looked at the tree on site. It was well-maintained, healthy. I think while the committee was understanding of the challenges that pine cones can cause, there was consensus. It was just a sort of normal cycle. You know, there's hundreds of pine trees, several hundred even as street trees throughout the community, and most do produce a cone, and they can fall from the tree even with routine maintenance. The hardscape, as consistent with other reviews, was determined to be repairable without causing the need for removal of the tree. Root pruning or some other strategies may allow for hardscape repair without taking the tree out. And generally, the committee was in full agreement that it was just a very healthy, functional street tree with lots of service life left. And after review, made a recommendation to deny the request for the removal of the Canary Island pine at 2216 De La Vina Street.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Slack? Okay, well,
One.
okay. Commissioner,
I'm always good for one. As far as pine cones, how long do they stick around?
Chair McGill, Commissioner Aldana, on average, it's sort of like a 2-year process. So they're like mature and drop sort of at year 2. But that, health, age, there's a lot of weird factors that can play into it. But on about a 2-year cycle, you can have, some number of cones, and at some point they'll drop. I think you get the younger ones when they're sort of still green, they carry a lot more weight than as they've kind of desiccated and matured from falling out. But generically, it's about every 2 years, specifically for the Canary Island pine.
And at some point, they're just going to fall, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And I guess I'm usually good for a question too. So I know we've looked at some trees in the past where there's been issues with sort of non-routine levels of dropping, and the discussion was with that being drought-related or just basically cyclical weather-related. Is there anything unusual about this, or do you think this is just the normal sort of in and out 2-year cycle of the tree?
Chair McGill, Commissioners, we didn't observe anything on site that would lead us to think it was, like a bumper crop or something this year. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, okay, thanks. All right. Are no other questions? We do have a speaker. It's Charles Sheffield. Yeah, and I don't know if you've done this before, but I think you probably have a sense of what the process is. You have 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
So thanks to the commission for giving me a few moments to speak. Hopefully you received the materials that I provided regarding the damage. Excellent. So I just want to go ahead and provide some context to what the gentleman's made mention. I wish that my neighbors were here to go ahead and support me in my comments, but unfortunately they're at work. The situation is that the tree is a hazard. I have elderly people in the neighborhood. I also have a convalescent home that's across the street. And these people are using their walkers and wheelchairs to pass the time in the afternoons. And they cannot because of these cracks in the sidewalk, as well as the pine cones. In one documented instance that you saw, it went through a car. There was another instance as well documented where another car was damaged. Not documented was a woman in her 70s with her walker that fell in front of my home, which was very, very unsettling for me to see. And again, it's all because of the root system that is bringing up the sidewalk. And I've tried to address it on numerous occasions, but it just seems to be unrelenting. So again, I love trees, I love this tree, but I just can't afford to see these people that are being injured as they try to go ahead and simply enjoy their afternoon. I'm seeing some caretakers that are actually moving the people from my side of the street across the street, not using the crosswalk just to avoid this tree and what has happened with the sidewalk and these pine cones. They are very fearful. My neighbors are also very fearful. I just wanted to share that context with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I've got Vice Chair Clark, and then Commissioner Aldana, are you in queue? Vice Chair Clark.
I mean, so those are some pretty good discussion points. I myself have a mother in a hospice board and care, so I can understand wanting to keep people safe who are vulnerable. For Mr. Slack, a couple questions about maintenance and public works in the cycle, and when will we next expect to see the sidewalk smooth out a little bit? That's my first question. And then my second question would be, in Santa Barbara, do we have any documented incidences of a person being hit by a falling pine cone? That was a city tree.
Chair McGill, Commissioner Clark, we would have to reach out to Public Works, make an inquiry about the hardscape, and they would do an inspection and then advise of repair. I don't have any knowledge of somebody being directly hit. That doesn't mean that it hasn't happened, but I don't, off the top of my head, I don't have any records, and in my time here, I don't believe that we've received any claims for damages related to pine cones actually striking someone.
Is reaching out to Public Works something that you would assume responsibility for if requested, or is the applicant, is it his responsibility to reach out to Public Works? I mean, who could start that process?
Chair McGill, Commissioner Clark, I think that's a takeaway from staff. We'd be happy to close the loop on that and reach back out to the applicant, or at least have Public Works follow up with them directly.
Commissioner Aldana.
Yeah, I was going to touch on reaching out to Public Works also. And at some point they were there, because you can see on the picture that you brought that there's grinding. So they did address it at some point. As far as trees, they are a preventive maintenance. Where I live, there's an oak tree, and there's a few months during the year where just acorns just fall. So I'm there every other day sweeping, so that nobody trips. But I take it upon myself. I don't just leave it there. So just curious to know how many times a week is the sidewalk swept or blown? Yeah.
I have a gardener that comes on a bi-weekly basis to take care of that. I also have an older lady around the corner that has volunteered to clean it on a daily basis. She's a retiree. She has nothing else to do but to go ahead and kindly clean the sidewalk in the morning and the afternoon. And yet we still have the debris from this tree. And let me make mention again, I love the tree. For the aesthetic appeal of the area, we do have jacaranda that are around the area, and I'm more than willing to have an established jacaranda tree placed at my expense, certainly. Again, just to enhance and also make the area safer for the people in the area so they can spend their afternoons.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to follow up on the Public Works question. I mean, given in terms of, I know Public Works has a lot of sidewalks to get to, but is there a conversation to be had on sort of accelerating the word, making a more frequent visit as opposed to, so if it's every X years, it's, less than every X years, given the situation with the demographic on the street in that area?
And Chair McGill, Commissioners, we get to make that inquiry, but I can't make any promises.
Yeah.
There's a lot of need community-wide, and these types of situations kind of do exist. They're sprinkled all throughout the community, so I'm not really sure that they're going to be able to visit more frequently. I would expect when repaired that you would see a lot of longevity associated with the repair. A lot of the concrete's pretty old. There was grinding, but the driveway apron and where the sidewalk is pretty old concrete, from my recollection.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm struggling with is we've looked at similar situations. I'm thinking of one tree that we've looked at multiple times where there's concerns with litter, and it's just not a place we've gone in terms of pine cone dropping being a reason for removing a healthy, thriving tree. So I really struggle with setting that precedent. As much as
Chair McGill.
I would be not happy if I was the one that had my windshield broken.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, I think having street trees is a huge benefit to the community, and trees are living beings, and some may be messier than others. I think as we move forward and revise our street tree designations and look carefully at our parkway widths, we have the opportunity to take more into consideration over time. I would add that there are many communities that don't receive the level of street tree care that Santa Barbara prides itself in, and it's a catch-22 in terms of how to move forward. And the city is well aware that I don't even know how many hundreds of miles of sidewalk that we have in the city. As a sidewalk, even if it needs maintenance is better than no sidewalk, often, for the most part. But I would also say that we have a good relationship with our Public Works colleagues, and in recent years, there's been a increased focused attention on sidewalk maintenance, much more than there was before.
Yeah.
And as we go through in the future, we are hoping to update our urban forest inventory, our street tree inventory, and as part of that, looking at infrastructure, so that we'll have a comprehensive assessment of what's needed and hopefully be able to schedule increased maintenance over time, once it's better known and it's mapped. So that's part of the challenge too. We have the technology to do it, we just need to go out and collect
Yeah.
the data and then set priorities accordingly.
Yeah.
And as part of that process, there certainly will be community outreach.
Yeah, thanks. That's good context. All right. I think we know the the problem statement here. Anybody prepared to make a motion? Vice Chair Clark. You just went blank.
I did.
You're reloading. Oh, this is, I love technology. Okay, you're in. Okay, Vice Chair Clark.
I would make a motion to agree with the Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation to deny the street tree removal request for the Canary Island pine at 2216 De La Vina.
I will second that.
Okay, I think we've said all there is to say on this one, so unless somebody has a last word, I will go to a vote.
My last word is that we do hear you, and what you say matters. And also, so does the urban forest, so it's not that we're taking a request lightly.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Oh, yeah, thank you. I always forget that. All right. Okay, so we do have a pass, and I want to make sure that you understand that you do have the right of appeal. And I will read you the language, but it says that any action of the Parks and Recreation Commission made pursuant to the municipal code may be appealed, I'm skipping the numbers, may be appealed to the city council within 10 days pursuant to provisions of section 1350. And I would suggest that if that's something you're interested in pursuing, Mr. Slack can help you through that process. Thank you. And now that takes us to Laguna.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, the next Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is the request to remove a coast live oak. This is located within the front setback of the property at 1409 Laguna Street. The applicant was requesting removal primarily due to concern with potential damage to the historic sandstone wall at the front of the property. The applicant had a really sort of like beautiful story about this naturally germinated acorn, and he took care of it and pruned it, and now it looks like that. 20-some years, I think he said. He's here, he can clarify it. But as the tree grew, it is in maybe less than a desirable location, so it's close to the wall, and rather than I guess take a chance on there being damage, he was trying to be proactive in requesting removal. The committee had lots of discussion on site, looked at the tree pretty critically. There isn't any physical damage currently, and I think there was general agreement amongst the committee on site that it was really hard to approve the removal of the tree in its current condition and its current placement without there being any actual damage to the wall. I think some of the members made comments, and we do see this, that sometimes hardscape or walls or houses can coexist very close to trees, and there can never be problems, but then, acknowledging that there can potentially be problems in other situations too. I think, again, going back to just a general health of size, and the benefit the tree provided to the property and the street. The committee ultimately made a recommendation to deny the request without prejudice, and I think some of the comments associated with that was just to give an opportunity to come back. So if there was, say, fracturing of the mortar or something that kind of was indicative of early stages of damage, that would then open the door to allow the applicant to return. I think kind of expressing that at that point they could be supportive of it, but given that there was no physical evidence currently, it was really difficult to recommend approval of the removal of the tree.
Okay, thanks very much. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Slack? Commissioner Aldana?
Okay. Was there any discussion on transplanting, maybe removing it and putting it and placing it in the parkway?
Chair McGill, Commissioner O'Donnell, I think the tree's far too large for that. So when you transplant, you have to kind of have proportional amounts of root ball, or like the root zone. And so since it's so close to the wall, it would be probably next to impossible to successfully transplant it, and very, very expensive.
Thank you.
I guess it's a beautiful tree. How big, but that's going to get to be a much larger tree with time, is it not?
Chair McGill, Commissioners, I think that's probably a safe assumption to make. You know, we know what the mature potential size of coast live oaks are. We've also talked about the high adaptability that the species has, and at some times they can, be a lot much smaller than what you would expect. We did have on-site discussions. I've not had a chance to follow up with the applicant, but you could employ pruning strategies too that could help reduce long-term size. There's a cost associated with maintenance, right? We have to recognize that, but say you decided right now to put that tree in sort of a static state for some period of years where you were doing just light pruning, not aggressive pruning, but just sort of like maintaining it and managing it in this size. That has a way of kind of keeping things young and stopping sort of the secondary growth where you get increase in diameter of the trunk and the roots. A good example is like proper pollarding in Europe, where the trees are in essentially such a stressed state that they don't produce any secondary growth. They kind of remain young, would be like a very generic way of putting it. So that's one strategy that you could use to sort of like prolong the tree and its location, and likely reduce the potential for damage over time.
Yeah, I mean, it just strikes me that it wasn't that long ago. We had a long conversation with Anna Pamu on one of the reasons this is such a good small space tree is its adaptability and ability to not disrupt hardscape. And then if we did the deny without prejudice, is that basically in perpetuity?
Chair McGill, Commissioners, yeah, it becomes part of the record, and we would certainly honor that if in the short term or the long term, And you got that great presentation, I think, last month about the ability to pull up this record, so
Yes.
pretty easy to find now.
We did, yes, thank you. All right, if there are any other questions, we do have a speaker, and Ron Sheklow, am I pronouncing that correctly? All right. I think you've seen the drill, so you probably understand it. You will have 2 minutes, and welcome.
Thank you. Good day. The Street Tree Advisory Committee has recommended denial of my tree removal request, and I'd like to state or restate the reasons noted in my request for a removal permit. I hope you have the other pictures that I submitted beside just this one that shows close-ups of the situation with the tree and the wall. The tree was a volunteer sprout that I noticed in the privet hedge along the front yard, and I nurtured the little tree sprout I noticed, and I enjoyed having it. I love having it, and it's a beautiful tree, and it's great in front of my Craftsman bungalow, and it's been growing for the last 20-odd years. I would not have intentionally located a tree so close to the low sandstone block historic wall at the sidewalk. The trunk has grown to 15 inches at the base and threatens to damage or deform the sandstone wall. And I've talked to several masonry contractors about what they could, what it would take to repair any damages, or if the tree actually causes the low wall to start to lean toward the sidewalk. I'd hate to lose this beautiful tree, but repair work would be a costly hardship. And that's basically my case. And I'll just add a little sidelight. I have an 8-month-old puppy who picks up everything off the ground, and this time of year, there's an enormous amount of acorn fall, and as soon as I open the front door, the porch is littered, and she goes for these. And I did some research and found that acorns are highly toxic to dogs. So if I catch her with one in her mouth, I take it out, and I try to sweep the porch and the front area frequently so that there is nothing that she can eat. Okay.
Yes, dogs eat anything.
Do
All
I
right.
sit down?
Yes, please, yes. Thank you very much. You've done a lovely job with the tree. Any questions or discussion? Were you? You're thinking, okay. Again, that's kind of, I'm guessing that's going to become a bigger tree, and it is very close to the wall. But at the same time, I'm also noting that the recommendation is deny without prejudice, which actually does give time to monitor it and work, perhaps work with the arborist on pruning techniques. So that's kind of the balance I have in my thought process. That it's sort of a stay of execution for the tree. Vice Chair Clark, I see you.
First of all, important question is, what kind of puppy is it?
Ooh.
Very cute.
Well, no wonder she eats everything.
Yeah. So, okay. It sounds like you love two things. You love the wall and you love the tree. You love three things. You love your puppy. And to me, it kind of sounds like any one of those factors on its own wouldn't be enough to convince you to take out this tree that you love and you've nurtured. That's true. So, I know how important dogs are. I have two. They're my children. But if you put an ugly eyesore of a baby gate at the front door for 8 months until she's past the puppy stage, that might eliminate one of the factors. I'm just thinking out loud. And then if the commission denied without prejudice, at that point, when the puppy stage was over and your dog was still safe, you would only have 2 factors remaining. And then you might wish a different outcome then than you would now. If you took the tree out now and 8 months you didn't have a puppy anymore, maybe you would regret it. Just thinking, because that's a hard decision. You care about all 3 of those things.
Commissioner Aldana.
This was for Nathan. I know you're not going to give me an exact answer, and I don't expect it. But as far as the roots before it could possibly push out the wall, what would be your guess?
Chair McGill, Commissioner Aldana, it would be difficult to say. I think we would have to go back and, it could be a coin flip. I think part of like the allure and charm of Santa Barbara, you walk around, you see these trees that are in these small little spaces that have gotten to be of huge size and seemingly cause like no issue. but then there's other ones that we see that have kind of wreaked havoc. So it's difficult to say. I would have to go back, I think the old construction of the sandstone wall, and I'm not an expert at all, but older things tend to be much better constructed, so that may be in favor of terms of the wall's structural integrity. And then just the adaptability of the root system. So it's all going to go where there's soil volume, so it's kind of going to sweep back towards the property. So it's really about if that trunk gets bigger and how it gets bigger and if there's pressure. So it's a really difficult question to answer with any kind of accuracy.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to make a motion. And I think it's just that, it's a tough one, because that is right up against the wall. But it seems like there's enough factors speaking in favor of the tree and enough uncertainties speaking in favor of the tree that I'm going to make a motion to agree with the Street Tree Committee and deny the setback removal request on 1409 Laguna without prejudice. And I think that's important in this case. Vice Chair Clark.
Second that.
Okay, thanks. If there is no further discussion, it's going twice, I will go to a vote. Thank you. All right, so moved, and you heard the appeal language from the previous applicant, I assume, so you do have right of appeal. It's 10 days, and you can work with Mr. Slack if you care to choose so. Okay, thank you very much.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, the last Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is a designation change. This is a continuation of all of these projects and these designations that we've seen that are primarily driven out of new tree planting opportunities, specifically on developments where they need to, the landscape plan must conform with the city's low water use ordinance. And in this instance, there's a new project specifically at 1 and 2 West De La Guerra that is planning on putting in street trees. The designation for this block, as well as the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 600 block of West De La Guerra, is all queen palm. We've also talked about staff's attempts, kind of driven by the urban forest management plan, to maximize shade on the street, not getting a lot of that from the palms, which are also very high maintenance trees for us to take care of. And so we took a real critical look at opportunities to utilize shade trees and move away from the designation of the palm. So rather than just look at the one block, we expanded the discussion, and it encapsulated sort of the full western De La Guerra Street. It's worth noting that the 1 to 400 blocks are basically from Chapala to the freeway, and then the 5 and 600 are on the opposite side of the freeway on the lower west side. The real difference there is that the 1 to 400 blocks has a very narrow parkway, which really limits our ability to choose species, whereas the 5 to 600 block, the parkways are much more generous and gave us a lot more flexibility in trying to increase diversity and choose species that would sort of maximize the potential per site. So we had a lot of discussion. We landed on some interesting species, and some are low water use. I think maybe they all are. Doesn't really matter. We have some that are low water use and some that aren't. And so after extensive discussion and review, the committee recommended using the smooth-barked coolabah. It's also called the snow queen, which is probably a more palatable name. It's a very small, very drought-tolerant eucalyptus that we're kind of really interested in utilizing. It's new. It's something that isn't really planted around here yet, but it's got a lot of potential. The Catalina Island cherry, the sweet shade, and the Taiwan cherry for the 1 to 400 blocks of West De La Guerra. And then again, mentioning that the parkways are much larger on the 5 to 600 blocks, the committee recommended using silverleaf oak, Engelmann oak, the eucalyptus again, and then also a Japanese blueberry tree as the designations for the 1 to 400 and 5 to 600 blocks of West De La Guerra.
It's a great eclectic mix of trees, isn't it? Yeah, and I want to see a coolaba. I think that's a great name. Especially a baked one. Yeah, it was, yeah. Commissioner Aldana.
Yes, of these species, is there any that will grow beyond 70 feet tall at their max?
Those oaks.
Chair McGill, Commissioner Aldana, the silverleaf oak is a relatively small oak. I think that's about 30 feet at maturity. The Engelmann oak, in its native range, can get to a pretty significant tree, but it's, from our understanding of it in an urban setting, it's not that large either. So I don't think anything would even, I don't know that any of these trees would even see 50 feet at maturity. Most of them are quite small.
And the electrical line, is that, do you know right offhand?
I don't know off the top of my head. But in the 1 to 400 blocks, these are trees that get to 20 to 30 feet. So the impacts, even if they are subject to utility pruning, is very minimal. So I think with these utility-friendly trees, you know, there's the possibility that they do encroach, but you're talking about very subtle pruning, whereas, yeah, to your point, a much larger tree is subject to sort of the V pruning or just,
Yeah,
you know, the...
I would like to try to eliminate that.
Yeah,
V.
which is why you're seeing us we're always adding a small species or two to all of these designations, because it just gives us a lot of utility when we're out there making decisions on, you know, where to put what species of tree.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, thanks. There aren't any other questions. I don't have any speaker slips for this. Do we have anybody online, which I've been forgetting to ask?
There is no one online.
Okay, thank you. And with that, unless there's any further discussion, is there somebody prepared to make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Aldana.
I'll make the motion to agree with this street tree master plan for West De La Guerra,
Okay.
from the 100 to the 600 block of West De La Guerra.
All right, I'll second that. And with no other discussion, we can go ahead and vote. Are we there? Great. Okay, thank you. And thank you very much, Mr. Slack. See you next month. All right, that takes us to the director's report.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, just a few items to bring to your attention as we are nearing the end of 2024. It feels like it just was 2024.
No kidding.
In January. But as always, we have a few things going on. It is the holiday season, and we were pleased that in conjunction with the Park Foundation, the department was able to host 2 free concerts, one at the renovated band shell in Plaza Del Mar, which occurred on Sunday, December 8th from 2 to 4 p.m. The Santa Barbara Strummers showed up and actually had quite a good turnout for their event for sing-along, and for their event and sing-along. And then they also handed out songbooks with lyrics. And then on Thursday, December 12th, even though that was a windy day, if you recall, we had the Treble Clef Women's Chorus perform at the Alameda Park Bandstand. And that gave us a good opportunity to see it in action, to evaluate sound and projection. And we had about 20 people show up to enjoy that on a windy, blustery, what we call windy and blustery in Santa Barbara anyway, day. And so it was a good opportunity there. And then we have our famous Rose Pruning Day show starting in January, our first community event of the year. So on January 11th at 9 a.m. from 9 to 1, we will be hosting, usually at this point, over 100 volunteers to help us prune more than 1,600 rose bushes, 400 varieties, 200 varieties. And we hope many people will show up. We hope the weather will be good. If it's not good, it will be delayed until January 18th. As always, the department will staff the event. We will provide gloves, disinfectant for cleaning, the tools that people bring, because that's one thing that's really important. We also help them sharpen. If people bring dull clippers, we will sharpen them for them. And then ways in which to collect the clippings. Dan Bufano has functioned as our trainer for this event for many years, and he will also be out for the January event. And that concludes anything that I have to share with you for January and the remaining part of this year.
Thank you. It's great to have the bandstand and the band shell doing what they should be doing and providing opportunities for recreation and entertainment for the city. And I know that there's plans afoot to really make good use of those assets for the city.
Thank you, Chair McGill. If I could just add, both have been out of commission for so long that it's sort of like, oh, we can use this now. So yes, it might take a little bit of time to ramp up, but we're really hopeful that working with the Park Foundation and others, there will be a series of concerts, certainly at the band shell. Can guarantee that the bandstand will be popular with our community events that happen every year, but then also that we have the opportunity to host all sorts of different activities there as well.
Yeah, and Commissioner Lesnar Buxton.
Is it appropriate to make a agenda request for next year?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Lesnar Buxton, that's something that you can certainly make a comment. We can't discuss it at this meeting. And you can also share it with me and the chair if you like.
I would like to have a discussion about tree removal and how it relates to accessibility. Sometime next year at the meeting, I think it would be an interesting topic, and I would love some clarification on it.
Okay, thank you, Chair McGill, Commissioner Lesnar Buxton. We can certainly do that. I know at your January meeting, for example, we plan to bring our capital program and capital projects, which include a variety of issues related to accessibility, as well as we have done program reports as they relate. So hopefully that will begin to answer that question, but I'll follow up with you in more specificity before that happens.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Vice Chair Clark.
But I just had a small question. I thought I undid it, but I was just wondering, I can ask you later. I was just wondering about pricing structures for the band shell. If nonprofits have a different pricing structure than, say, someone wanting to put on a for-profit show.
Chair McGill, Commissioner Clark, we have our fees and charges that we establish every year, and there's a difference between nonprofits, residents, and non-residents. And then working with the Park Foundation, for the example of the band shell, looking towards finding a way to host a certain number that would ensure that there would be free concerts. There's a balance between cost and that kind of thing. But yes, when we talk about our fees and charges as part of budget, we can also talk about that as well.
And anyone, you can go online and there's a pretty detailed breakdown of profit and nonprofit charges for all of the city assets. And I'm sure the Rose Pruning Day will be a great success because it always is. All right, and I think that takes us to our last agenda item, which is the advisory committee interviews. And I think we are going to be doing, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be doing arts and crafts and street tree next month. Is that right, when we have all the applicants?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're going to be doing as many of the golf as we've got applicants for. I think we're going to have to finish that in January as well. I'm just going to go down in order, and then I think if it's, I can't, we do this every year, and every year I can't remember, but I think we can just vote on them as a block once we've done all the interviews, is that right? I mean, since we,
That's correct.
yeah, okay. So let's start with the Golf Advisory Committee and the category Men's Club, and we have one applicant, and it's Dominic Nemeth, and I believe you are here. And you've done this before, so I think you know the drill.
I think I've done it probably 10 times before.
Oh, no. Okay. Sorry.
Do you want me to say something? Or are you
please.
going to ask me questions?
Please, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
My name's Dominic Nameth. I've been on the Golf Advisory Committee, I want to say going on 16 years or something like that. And I've been the chair for the last 8 or 9 years. And just want to have some continuity and continue doing the work.
And we're happy to have you.
Any questions?
No, not for me. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Tree questions?
Nathan's gone. Okay. Thank you very much. The next category is Los Pasanos and John Craig. I believe we are not present, right, so that one we will. And then we have the Women's Club, Kathy Patton.
Hello, I'm Kathy Patton. This will be my first time serving on the GAC, if you approve me. I am currently on both boards, or have been on both boards, of the 2 women's groups that play out at the municipal course, the Santa Barbara Women's Golf Club and the LPGA Amateurs. And the Santa Barbara Women's Golf Club has put me forward as a name, and I would be happy to serve. I'm very active with the women's group. I just played golf this morning with the women's group, and they're just a great bunch of women, and I look forward to representing them on the GAC. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
No,
right now.
thank you very much. Yeah, and we appreciate your willingness to serve. Community at large, we've got 2 openings and 2 applicants. Craig Moore. Welcome.
So I'm pleased to be with you 2 years later from saying yes the last time we did this, and looking forward to participating again. And I've got years of experience. When I moved here in 1989, golf was one of the first things that I ventured into with people like, well, my neighbor, and anyway. So I'm prepared to keep working.
Great. Any questions?
Thank you.
Unless you're not, you don't need to stop.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And Michael Woodard. Welcome.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Come on down. Michael Woodard, and applying for another term.
Okay.
I'm ready. Any questions?
Can any one of you guys help me with my swing? No, no.
That would be Dominic. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Woodard?
No.
Okay. I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to make a motion that we approve all the applicants that have spoken with us this evening, and we will take the rest of them next month. So I will make that as a formal motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. And then we can take that to a vote. Okay. Yay. Thank you very much. Welcome aboard and welcome back. And I just want to say thank you very much for working with us and working with the golf club. It's, you know, it's a extremely successful, the golf course and all the activities associated with it, and it's just, you know, a large part of that is the golf community engagement in making it successful. And, you know, it's not easy to volunteer in these committees, and really appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Happy holidays, yes. And I think that is it. We will adjourn.